Early life and background, 1918 to 1940. Born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, a village in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Birth name Rolihlahla Mandela. The name Rolihlahla means troublemaker. Mandela belonged to the Thembu royal family of the Xhosa ethnic group. His father, Gadla Mfakanyiswa, was a local chief but lost his position due to a dispute with colonial authorities. After his father's death, Mandela was raised by the acting Thembu regent, Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo, who provided him with a traditional and Western education, attended mission schools, and developed a strong sense of justice, influenced by African communal traditions and his exposure to colonial inequality. Studied at the University of Fort Hare, a premier institution for black South Africans, but was expelled in 1940 for participating in a student protest. Early political activism, 1941 to 1961, moved to Johannesburg, escaped an arranged marriage and moved to Johannesburg in 1941, worked as a night watchman and later as a law clerk while completing his law degree through correspondence at the University of South Africa. Encountered racial discrimination firsthand, deepening his political awareness. Joining the African National Congress, ANC, joined the ANC in 1943, co-founded the ANC Youth League, ANCIL, in 1944 with Walter Sisulu and Oliver Tambo. The ANCIL pushed for a more radical, mass-based approach to the struggle against apartheid, married his first wife, Evelyn Mays, in 1944. They had 4 children but divorced in 1958 due to political and personal tensions. Defiance campaign and increased activism. In 1952, Mandela became the National Volunteer-in-Chief of the Defiance Campaign, a mass civil disobedience movement against apartheid laws. Opened the first black law firm in South Africa with Oliver Tambo. Faced frequent arrests and restrictions, including a 9-month suspended sentence and banning orders that limited his movements and activities. Shift to armed struggle. After the Sharpeville massacre in 1960, where 69 protesters were killed by police, the ANC was banned. Mandela and others formed Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, in 1961, an armed wing of the ANC which carried out acts of sabotage against apartheid infrastructure. Mandela travelled secretly across Africa and to Europe to garner support for the anti-apartheid movement. Arrest, trial and imprisonment, 1962 to 1990. Arrest and Rivonia trial. Arrested in 1962 for leaving South Africa illegally and inciting strikes, sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 1964, Mandela and others were tried for sabotage and attempting to overthrow the government in what became known as the Rivonia trial. Delivered his famous speech during the trial, ending with, "It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Sentenced to life imprisonment, life on Robben Island. Spent 18 of his 27 years in prison on Robben Island. Lived in harsh conditions, a small cell, hard labour in a lime quarry, and limited communication with the outside world. Despite this, Mandela became a leader among prisoners, promoting education and unity. International campaign for his release. Mandela's imprisonment became a focal point of the global anti-apartheid movement. Countries imposed sanctions on South Africa, and activists worldwide demanded his release. Release from prison released on February 11, 1990, after 27 years in prison, following growing domestic protests and international pressure. His release symbolized the beginning of the end of apartheid. Transition to democracy and presidency, 1990 to 1999. Negotiations with the apartheid government. Mandela led negotiations with South African President F.W. de Klerk to dismantle apartheid and establish multiracial elections. In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk jointly received the Nobel Peace Prize. First democratic elections. In 1994, Mandela was elected South Africa's first black president in the country's first democratic elections. His government focused on national reconciliation, reducing poverty, and addressing inequalities. Key achievements as president established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, to investigate human rights violations during apartheid, promoted policies to address economic disparities, including expanding access to education and healthcare, refused to seek a second term, stepping down in 1999, setting a precedent for peaceful transfers of power. Later years and global legacy, 2000 to 2013, global statesman advocated for human rights, peace, and education globally. Focused on combating HIV/AIDS, a major crisis in South Africa. Authored Long Walk to Freedom, his autobiography. Personal life married Graça Machel, widow of Mozambican President Samora Machel, in 1998. Retired from public life in 2004 but remained an influential figure. Death and legacy, passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. Honored worldwide as a symbol of freedom, resilience, and forgiveness. Mandela's legacy, equality, and reconciliation. Mandela proved that forgiveness and unity could triumph over hatred. Global icon, celebrated for his courage, humility, and dedication to justice. Annual tribute, Mandela Day, July 18th, encourages people to dedicate time to community service in his memory.